This episode of the WP Builds podcast is brought to you by GoDaddy Pro, the home of managed WordPress hosting that includes free domain, SSL, and 24/7 support. Bundle that with the Hub by GoDaddy Pro to unlock more free benefits to manage multiple sites in one place, invoice clients, and get 30% off new purchases. Find out more at go.me/WP Builds. Hello. This is interesting. This is new. This is something we've never done before. This is Anne. I got the right direction. Check it out. First time I feel like God or something. This is Anne McCarthy, and we're trying to out something new. So first of all, Anne, say hi and tell us who you are, apart from the fact that you're Anne.
Hello, Anne McCarthy. I'm a WordPress product liaison at Automatic. I was previously a developer relations wrangler. I hang out in the full siting outreach program, and Nathan was kind enough to hit me up to kind of just do a casual chat and see where this goes, to see how we can continue to help provide value and information and honestly community for the community.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you having me on and doing this, because it's really wonderful when folks like this can come together and collaborate. So.
I'm really grateful that you've come and joined us. Hopefully it'll be a regular thing, but just to set some expectations, if you are watching this, whether it be live or on the channel later, we don't really know what the purpose is, other than that I chatted to Anne we've chatted quite a lot over the recent months, and I just thought we've got an audience of some magnitude. I don't mean that in a big-headed way, although it came out like that. I apologize. We've got an audience, let's put it that way, and it would be nice to collide that audience with the things that Anne is doing, because Anne's trying to get the information out there. She's trying to encourage people to look into what's happening with the developments of WordPress, be that 5.9 or 6 or 6.1 or whatever's coming in the future. And sometimes the communities don't connect, and it would be nice if people who are interested in WordPress got to hear the message from Anne. We don't know what the format's going to be like. We've got some ideas of things that we're going to share on the screen, but that's about as far as it's been planned. So if anybody does tune in and drops in, please feel free to comment and basically just let us know what you're thinking of it. You know, is there something that you would like Anne to talk about? Is there something that you would like to see in a future episode like this? Just let us know. I have to do some housekeeping, Anne. I'm really sorry, because otherwise people don't know what we're doing. If you feel like sharing this, that is to say, if you think, oh, this is curious, I know somebody who might be quite into this, probably the best way to share it is to go to the wpbuilds.com website, and the URL is wpbuilds.com/live. You need to be logged into Google. Well, you don't. You can watch it. It's on a YouTube stream. But if you want to make comments, the chat box next to that is the YouTube comments. So you'd need to have a Google account, I guess. The other option is to go to the Facebook group. That is wpbuilds.com/Facebook. It's the second URL at the end there. And you can make comments in there. However, if you decide to do that, Facebook anonymizes you. I think it's about the only thing that Facebook does of an anonymous nature. Chat.restream.io/FB is the URL if you want to be de-anonymized. And basically, if you've just got any thoughts, just drop them in the chat and we'll stick them in. But we're going to just talk. We'll talk until we've got nothing else to say, and then we'll end the call. And we don't know whether that'll be 4 minutes from now or quite a bit longer. But we've got a few little talking points. We've got a few URLs that we'd like to show you, things that are happening in the WordPress space, things that are coming up, things that maybe you've not heard of, maybe you don't know you can contribute to, and so on and so forth. So should we get to it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I'll do them in the order that you sent me the links, Anne, if that's all right. Perfect. So this is the first one that you've got, and this is Anne's piece. You can find this on make.wordpress.org. It was actually produced yesterday, and it's entitled FSE, which I should say stands for Full Site Editing. Hopefully you're aware of that. Full Site Editing Program Authoring and Author Template Summary. I could read this out, Anne, but what's the point? You're here. Tell us what's going on.
So we recently did a call for testing with the full sighting outreach program, and basically the calls for testing give little different use cases, and you can explore features that are either coming to the next WordPress release or that are under development. So in this case, we did authoring an author template because the author template is one of the templates coming to 6.0. And in this experience, you also got to explore block locking, which is a new UI that's available for you to actually lock down the interface. You can prevent blocks from being removed or moved. Edit access is still available, but that's also being worked on. But yeah, I wanted to highlight this because it touches on some interesting pain points that were found, and I think is a really good way to show how the feedback that comes from the community is integrated into the plans that WordPress has. So in this case, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a high level summary, but then there's three little, it's like outside of these quotes, a few items came up. So I wanted to call attention to these because they came up a fair amount, which is pretty unusual. Sometimes calls for testing have like one thing that like 10 people mention. In this case, these were the three that very much came up repeatedly. And I wanted to call them out just because it's a good way of looking at 6.0 in terms of the edges. So in terms of block locking, one of the things that came up was that you can lock container blocks like a group block or columns. But if you want to lock everything inside a column, right now you have to individually and manually lock each block. So all this UI is really cool and is a big step forward in terms of offering ways to curate your content and actually like shut things down so people don't ruin designs or layouts. It also has some room to grow. So this is a really obvious pain point that came up, and there actually are some designs in progress about what that might look like, which I think is pretty neat. And this was just a big thing that came up and something to keep in mind with 6.0. So if you're exploring 6.0 or really looking forward to block locking, one of the things to keep in mind is this pain point. Another one.
Can I just interrupt you there? Is the intention to have some sort of recursive locking where you could get a parent item and basically say lock everything below?
Yeah. So there's I think if I link to it right, there is a design that's in place or that's being explored right now where you could actually just have like a little checkbox that's like lock everything inside of it too.
Perfect. Yep.
And the cool thing is list view, which is the tool that you can open to see the structure of your content, reflects the lock status. So if you lock something, you can open up list view and see at a glance what's locked across your page or template, which I think is really neat. And that's also going to be in 6.0 because I know there were times when I was testing locking and then I forgot which ones I actually locked. Open up list view.
Oh, right. Yeah, the list view shows it. That's nice. Can you just give us some indication of what the permission structure for that will be? In other words, what and who are you locking out? Obviously, you're locking a particular block or a set of blocks which are children of other blocks. But how is that handled? Is it user roles and
Yeah, so right now that's something that needs to be expanded a bit more. It's currently available, from what I understand, for all admins and editors. So you can actually, basically what it does right now is add friction, and in the future that needs to be a bit more robust. You could probably use a permissions plugin to actually get more granular control right now, but from what I understand, it's not super tied to user role beyond obviously admins being able to lock and unlock. So like if I lock something and we both were admins, you could also go and unlock it or lock it. So right now for admin level, I would describe it as it adding friction. So you can't say like only this admin can lock and unlock things.
Right.
It's not that granular, but in the future, I imagine it's going to be tied both to more to user roles where it's a lot clearer and smoother experience, and tied more to what I'll call like more global items. So let's say you want to lock all like header template parts where people they can insert them. They might be able to do like minor edits if they can't remove them or something like that. Like there are different explorations that need to be built upon.
And I guess the fact that WordPress is taking over the design of pages and posts and templates, in other words, inexperienced users can go in and they can fiddle with things. In the past, they've been able to fill out fields, and so the title and the body and what have you. But now that they're able to, I don't know, change the padding and the margin and the colors of things directly, locking those kind of things would be very useful for, well, I guess freelancers and people who are building sites and passing them over, but just you can change the title, but not a lot else, or you can change, well, you can pick. But that's a really useful feature. And I know that a lot of commercial page builders have got those kind of things built in so that you can lock out right down to the particular user, I think. And those would be excellent to have. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that expand. One of the things that's come up too that I've heard as feedback is the post content block, which is basically what you can put in a template to have it display your post content. People don't know what that is. So they've just been removing it. And then they're like, wait, why is this template not actually showing my poster page? Like there's this sense of there's like not a connection there between what that actually does, partially because it's called the post content block and not like a content block.
Yes.
Like if you're working on a template that works on pages, yeah, you think you can remove your post content. You would think it makes sense, but that's something that's come up with a couple different folks that I've talked to where they're like, yeah, I wish we could just locked that down. I'm like, well, now you could add a lock, or maybe even having like a warning for certain blocks like this, where it's like, don't remove this. But this blocking mechanism also can apply to other things in the interface. So if you create like a pattern or something like that, you could maybe set it up where it inherently comes locked. So, you can't remove certain, maybe the group block and like the cover block inside of it or something like that. You could lock that down and move everything else around. So
that's a really cool, that's a really useful development, isn't it? There's tons of applications to that. It's not one of the, I don't know, like the duotone filter, which seems to go in for kind of widespread. Yeah, I actually quite like the word, but I think a lot of people thought that was an interesting use of resources, whereas this one, I don't think anybody could argue that this one is genuinely useful. Yeah. Okay, what's the next one?
Then, the next one is around the template options. So there's 5 new template options coming to 6.0. So author, date, taxonomy, category, tag. So those are all going to be new templates that when you're in the site editor and you hit add new, you'll be able to include. But right now, when you add them, they are empty. So you open them up and it's like you're met with this blank slate. And that was something that this test, because you were working on the author template, which is a new one, it kept coming up. People were like, yeah, this is overwhelming. Why isn't this pulling from the archive template? Justin Tadlock did a great write-up where he basically pointed that out. There are open issues, thankfully, around this, but this is something that came up a fair amount. And right now with 6.0 as well, when you create a new template and you're clicking to add a block, when it's the root of the template and it's, you're at the bare bones, it will actually prioritize patterns, which is kind of cool. So even though
nice.
With a blank template, you also are being pushed to like add a header pattern where it's like you can quickly build something out. But still, I think in many ways, these should be improved where for future releases, you're not just met with something that's completely empty. So that was a big, obvious piece of feedback where it's like, how can we make this easier for folks when they're getting started?
So it's gonna come pre-filled, hopefully, with just some basic boilerplate stuff, which will at least give you an idea of, okay, this is how you lay it out, and these are the blocks that you need to use to make anything work, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think there's also a new pattern coming to, or not a new pattern, but a new flow coming to the add new page for 6.0, where when you add a new page, it'll present you with what's called like post content patterns. So if a theme specifies a specific category of patterns, it'll pop up there in a modal and you can select which one you want or just like close out of it and move forward. And that same experience is part of what's being explored for these new template options. So let's say you're creating a new template and you're presented with a couple current ones that you're like, okay, yeah, I want this to look like the single post template and I'll edit it further. You can do that. Or you could maybe have like a start blank, similar to kind of the query loop block experience. So all of these things being integrated more with patterns and giving people some level of choice, I think is pretty neat. I also imagine some folks don't want the choice at all. So I'm sure there's gonna be ways to override it and be like, do not show me all these patterns. I just want to trust the theme author to have these set up. And that also will be possible based on the theme. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that was a big piece of feedback was people they're like, wait, we have all these patterns. We have all these things. Why is this?
Yeah. Blank is never good, is it? There's no scenario where a blank page is better than something half finished. Yeah, I like that. The modal, which everybody just sort of dismisses the first time you log into WordPress, that it's quite useful, isn't it? It pops up and it gives you some indication. I was using the pattern creator, which we'll come onto in a minute, and I found that quite useful. There was I think it was like 2 or 3 steps. The modal popped up and gave me an indication of what I needed to be doing in order to make it work and how I could submit things and save things, and it was really useful. I think it was just a couple of steps, but it was something to look at as opposed to a blank screen, and gave me some orientation of what I needed to be doing next.
Orientation is a great word. Yeah, that's exactly what I think we need to be doing. Is like, rather than someone needing to know exactly, oh, I need to add a header template part. It's like, how do we move that thought process so people are just playing with blocks? Because that's ultimately the aim.
So we're hopefully by 6.0 we'll have the option to do that with authors, dates, taxonomies, categories, and tags. That kind of sweeps everything up, doesn't it? Really, there's a
a
lot
ton of
in there.
stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And then the third thing.
The third thing is something that's also kind of a dead end in my mind. And something that I tried to push on, but we're kind of in this is where certain things are being moved, and we end up in a little bit of a limbo. So for 6.0, the post name author block did not make it. And currently, the post author block does not have a way for you to say, like, link to author's archive. So you have an author template, it shows the archive of all of an author's posts. Let's say you are, creating a template and you want to link to that archive. So someone's looking at a post, you could click on the author name would be clickable. You could then see all their posts in a customized template. Right now, you cannot link to that template automatically. So you'd have to manually link to stuff, which wouldn't even really work, especially if you were editing a template. So right now, we basically had this back and forth with folks in the community who worked on this. And essentially it was like, well, this is a bummer. Whenever we release the post name author block, which will probably come in 6.1, that includes that feature to link to the archive. And rather than upgrading essentially what's soon to be an out-of-date block, we need to wait for this new one that comes with the functionality. So that's just another thing to keep in mind if you start playing around with the author template and you want to take advantage of it and actually link off to it. That's something to have in your have in mind, where you could send people their specific link if they wanted to share it, but otherwise it's hard to link off to.
Yeah.
I was particularly bummed about this, but it's also a great find where this became very clear that folks would want to use it.
Yeah, it's kind of expected behavior, isn't it, really? That's what I
Yeah.
would anticipate. If I click on somebody's name as the author, I would like to see more of their stuff, because certain news websites that I go to and things like that, and lots of sites that I go to, I look at comedy quite a lot, and I am intrigued by the way that person writes and speaks, and so I want to see more of them. And that is what I would expect to happen. Click on the author and get more of their stuff. So
Yeah, that's how I feel. I love that experience where someone was like, "And how likely do you think that?" I was like, "This is very likely."
Oh, so likely. I mean, in fact, like completely expected behavior in my book. So there you go. Now you have some feedback from from me.
Yeah, we'll bring this back.
I'm just going to put this page back to the beginning
Yeah, the
again.
rest of it goes through like minor details and sections and stuff like that. I just wanted to call out those specific ones, but this is part of a summary of a call for testing that people did. And if you participate, you get a first-time contributor badge for the test team, which is pretty cool on your.
Tell us about the contributing piece, because you're all about, or at least you have been until recently. I don't know if anything has changed, but that's really been a big part of what you've been doing. You've been putting out things, asking people to come back and give you feedback. How is that all going? And obviously something like this is intended to aid that. If anybody watches this and thinks,
Yeah.
that would be useful, I could allocate a few minutes of my time to help Anne out. What's it all about? How do you do it? How does the process work, and so on?
Yeah, so basically I write calls for testing, and if you look at, like, I don't know if you can pull up test and then /tag and then like FSE hyphen
In
testing.
here,
Yeah, in here. So if you
tag
do tag, yep, and then /,
FSE.
and then it's like FSE hyphen testing hyphen call. All the posts are tags with this. So
There we go.
hopefully. Did I get
Okay.
okay? Yeah. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
So this is an example of one where it goes through like an overview. Here are the features we're testing. Here's the use case. So you don't have to come up, like, let's say I was like, go test block locking, but you had no use case. It's kind of an odd thing to ask someone to just go test, because you're not going to reach the edges of things. So the tests are meant to guide you. Some of them are more open-ended. So some of them are like, okay, now go customize as you'd like. Whereas some are very detailed, where it's like, change the font size to 16 and change the color. And it just depends on the stage of the features that we're testing. Like, is this super new and early? Is this more robust? Where like before with the style system really made it hyper detailed, where now it's a little bit more open-ended, which is kind of fun. But it's pretty simple. So you need a WordPress.org profile. I would have a make WordPress Slack account just so you can get reminders from me. Not necessary though. Some people are not actually in the Slack group, which is kind of cool, but I think there's over 500 people in that channel now, which is kind of wild. And you just follow the steps, and you need a test site. And one of the things Courtney Robertson has been very helpful, and I'm going to explore having, I think it's InstaWP, You can set up installations, like one-click installations, where rather than having to set up a test site, you could pull in an installation, spin it up, and it would come baked with everything that I might say. So use the Gutenberg plugin, have these templates and set up, like whatever. I could have a bunch of specifications.
Oh, okay. So that's really neat because you've got over many of the problems I would imagine that stop people doing this is because of the first 20 minutes you're just fiddling to
Exactly.
get things set up. Right, right.
So I'm hoping that will, I'm actually going to try it for this next test, which should perhaps ship today. I'm scrambling to do a bunch of different stuff, but I'm trying to figure out which blocks we're going to focus on. But yeah, from there, you just kind of go through the experience and share your feedback. So if you run into any pain points, no matter how big or small, or if you're like, I bet someone has said this before, say it again. It really helps to see like requests over time. There are a number of issues that I will comment on and be like, hello, this came up in the FSC outreach program 1, 5, 13, like I can kind of list them off. And it's really helpful to kind of get a sense of what to work on next and where the pain points continue. And then I basically will respond to you. So I'll be like, cool, thanks so much. Here's a new issue. This connects to this. So it's a great way if you're trying to grow your knowledge about FSE to also do so, because you'll basically get someone to sweep through and kind of either explain the context of things or file the issues for you. So it's a pretty, I really enjoy it. And we've had a number of new folks. So in terms of how it's going, I love seeing the new faces. I also love, I think Paul Yakum, I'm not sure, I'm probably mispronouncing his name. I'm going to have to ask him after, but he's responded to every single one. He's like the only person, and it's so cool. And then there's a Pier Mario who translates them into Italian. He's translated most of them into Italian. And then we have another person, a couple folks who've helped translate many of them into Japanese, a couple into Spanish. So if you have a different language locale, it's pretty neat. But yeah, basically then I summarize all the feedback, find the patterns, and write a summary post soon after.
Could I ask a question? You may wish to answer it. You may not wish to. I don't know. How the adage would be, there's never enough feedback. I can consume as much feedback as anybody can give me. Is that the case? Do you feel that there's enough people? Because I'm imagining the supposition is that for many people, that WordPress just sort of creates itself. And there's just ta-da, it just magically appears. Look, there's a nice change log. That's brilliant. I wonder how that happened. But obviously, it's things like your FSE program which make that happen. Do you feel you get enough? Is it a question of more would be better? Are you happy with the sort of amount that you get at the moment? I'm thinking about your, whether you get overloaded or whether you believe, boy, we didn't really get a lot there, but I'll go with my gut based upon the small amount of responses. Just curious to know, really.
Both happens. Like there have been some where I'm like, like I really need more feedback on this, but world events are happening, and I don't know, this is where I'm like very much a humanist. I'm like, software is not as important as humans, it's like, and I can kind of gauge how I'm like writing feedback and like interacting with the folks who work on this stuff as to whether to be like really hey, we need to get this fixed, or kind of be like, hey, one person mentioned this, it's a light feedback. So I might title an issue differently depending on things. Hey, Max.
Hey, Max.
So like, it depends on what kind of the feedback that comes in. I will adjust kind of how much I'm like, hey, 5 people mentioned this versus 1 person did. So there's some moderation that happens on my end, but I will say like my ideal, and this is just a gut, is like, I would love to have maybe like half the people who respond to a call for testing be folks who have been a part of other calls for testing. So they have some history, they have some experience, they're not completely new with full siting. And then I love whenever brand new people come in where they don't have experience. And that's the piece with, I think, having InstaWP or an easier setup. I think that will unlock more folks from that realm. But in the meantime, folks like yourself and Courtney Robertson and Carrie Dills and other people who run group testing help facilitate. So like if they can actually walk people through the setup process, it's huge. And feel like I've been very lucky where other folks have come in and helped run some of those group testing that are more like breaking down each step to involve more people who might not otherwise, look at my post and be able to get started. I would love more feedback. So right now I would say we have probably on average, saying we, but it's, I'd probably say about the average responses is like 10 to 12. The lower side is probably 6 to 8. Sometimes I do get overwhelmed. I am very much human, where all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, like 4 responses came in one day and they're all really detailed. And sometimes it takes me literally like 1 to 2 hours to respond to just one person, because I'm having to replicate everything and open the issue and write a, coherent response rather than just being, hey, it's filed. Like I try and really pay attention to what each person's saying, because they gave me their attention and time. So I'm very particular about that. So yeah, and I think it would be a great problem if all of a sudden I was so overwhelmed by how much feedback we were getting that we had to bring in other people. I'm like, please let that be a problem we have.
Yeah.
I would love that. And I honestly seek it out in other Slack groups. So like there was someone in post status yesterday, actually, who I was going back and forth with, because they mentioned, like, I have some newbie FSE questions. And I was like, great, what's
Bring
up?
them on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll sit there with you and give me, just as long as you're patient, I'll go back and forth. I know we've done that too, Nathan, where it's like, what are you running into? Like, cool, give me some time, but I'll respond and make sure this is filed away.
Okay, so that's our first bit. There's our full site editing program authoring and author template summary. So go check that out. Honestly, I think the quickest way is just to Google the title of the post rather than me trying to read out that giant. But it was the 26th of April, and if you can kind of work out that, you can probably feed that into the URL. If you are really, really habitual about going to make.wordpress.org, you can probably work that out. Okay, let's move on. This is interesting. Web Fonts API for WordPress 6.0. Tell us about this. And it's you again.
I know, I'm very biased.
No, that's good.
Yeah, so I just want to first like call out how much the contributors who worked on this, how much hard work was put into it and creativity under stress, which I think is really difficult to do. So a lot of people worked on this to kind of get a solution in place, and just like mad props. But yeah, basically the Web Fonts API was originally punted from 5.9. So it was slated for 6.0. It helps you enqueue and register fonts much easier and more performant than before. So, but one of the things that ended up coming up is that the approach to actually manage this API shifted. So a version was merged in February. And when that happened, it was merged in the Gutenberg plugin. And when that happened, some performance issues came up. Basically, where if you registered and enqueued some fonts, it would actually like enqueue all of them, even if you weren't using all of them. So huge performance problem. So if someone's registering like 500 fonts because they want to give someone a bunch of options, it would slow things down to a crawl. And it was mainly through plugins that this performance problem was found. And so it kind of led to this scramble of like, how do we fix these issues? What can we get into 6.0? And what resulted in is what I think is a really creative solution, because part of what was used with this API was style variations. So style variations are different style presets that you can switch between with block themes. And that includes fonts. So with this API together with style variations, you can actually have different fonts set up. And I think underneath Vision, there might be a video that kind of shows this visually, because I know sometimes it can be, okay, good, I did include a video. Sometimes you never know. My intent is to, and sometimes I forget. But this video just shows an example of how like this feature can actually be applied in some of the vision for it. So you can see there's different fonts in each of these, and you can kind of switch through to find the one that you like. And right now, essentially for 6.0 and in beta 3, which was released this week, a private scaled down version was released. So rather than the API being public and open for themes and plugins, instead, it'll just be available to actually work with in theme JSON only. So plugin authors are going to have to wait until future release, and then block theme authors can explore this for now and actually use it with these style variations. And if this is something that you're really excited about, I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, I can't wait for this to be in here. I highly encourage you to help test it in the Gutenberg plugin, because it will continue to evolve there. So that stopgap for 6.0 is not going to be in the Gutenberg plugin. Instead, development is going to continue. So if you are someone who likes to experiment and tinker, I highly recommend helping give feedback here. But this is just an important call out, because it was originally going to be somewhat of a headline feature for 6.0 and has very much changed because of that.
I got to say, I really do dig this UI here. I think it's really, I mean, I've not seen anything quite like that.
Yeah.
elsewhere. Just the ability to here's a bunch of different things that might be on your site. Obviously, it's just it's boilerplate stuff, but click some buttons and get an immediate reaction to no, yeah, ooh, I'm curious about that, and then drill a little bit deeper. This is going
This
to be very exciting when it rolls out.
Yes, and this UI is like not baked into the editor. So actually,
Yep.
this ties into one of the issues, the navigation sidebar, dedicated navigation sidebar issue, because basically it's like you're changing something, but you're just in the site editor, so you might only be seeing one template, and you can't. It's hard right now to browse between your site, kind of like you could do with the customizer. Where you could click through your site to see how
Yeah.
the changes
Yeah.
applied. That functionality, that feeling, is not currently possible with the site editor without basically making some updates. So that's still a pretty big pain point, and there's some explorations now to kind of explore how you could move through your site using navigation as like the guide, which is kind of neat. But yeah, this was a big decision. A lot of hard work went into it, and I really appreciate the transparency. So in the conversations, like I think you can see in the 6.0 release leads how thoughtful everyone was being and how to proceed.
So, if you got any thoughts on this, and you would like to help again, this one is Anne's piece. It's called "The Status of Web Fonts API for WordPress 6.0 Inclusion," and we're just bringing it to your attention if you didn't know about it. So there you go. Right, let's go on to our third piece. This is Matthias. Yeah, you're obviously pleased about this. Surface navigation structure as a dedicated UI, right? This one has passed me by, I've got to confess. So you're going to have to explain and tutor me on this.
So it's kind of, I am torn about this implementation, I'll be honest, and I really can't wait to test it in the FC outreach program. So if this kind of exploration, you're also over here thinking hard about it, expect it in a future outreach program call. So I welcome you to join. But essentially what it does is it surfaces the actual navigation of your site. And so what it allows you to do is to click between them. So imagine you have this on the sidebar.
Let me make that a little bit bigger and we'll get an impression of what's going on there. Okay, right.
So you can see there's navigation and templates, and it's kind of reimagining the current sidebar experience, because right now things are kind of split between what's global versus what's actually on the page that you're looking at. And so this exploration would move everything global to one side of your screen. So you'd have styles, you'd have templates, and then you'd have this navigation structure all kind of off to the side as like, this is the global section. And then you'd have like the block setting sidebar on the other side and like your preferences and all that sort of stuff. But this would essentially allow you to navigate between your site within the site editor. So if you clicked on products, for example, it would take you to the products template, and then you could edit from there. So it's kind of a new way to browse your site, similar to what we were just talking about, where it's like you might make a bunch of style variation changes, and then it's like, okay, what does this actually look like? It would allow you to click between with ease, which is kind of cool to get a sense of how the changes you're making cascade throughout. I just don't know how people are going to understand the experience, because it took me a minute to really sit in on these visuals.
What was the piece that left you questioning what was the dissonance that you couldn't quite get over right away?
So, it's kind of merging. It feels like it's merging too many things in a strange pathway. Like if that's, and I don't like that it's like navigation, and then you also might have the navigation block. It's just kind of like, it makes me kind of pause around like what's actually going to show in navigation and what's powering that. And are people going to understand when they're clicking through that they're then editing like that template, for example, or that page? Like, what are you actually editing, and what are you? It's just kind of like too much too soon. It feels like a little bit, but that's part of these like pie in the sky.
That's the point, isn't it? That is the point, is just throw spaghetti at the wall and see which bits people favor.
Yeah. And if you scroll down, I think there's some videos. I think Jay did.
Here's one.
Yeah, let's see what that one is. I think this is. Yep, this is the one I was thinking of. So it's like you can open.
So you open up the navigation with a button, and then you click, and now you're in the products template.
So imagine you have this, and then you open up like list view or something. Like there's just too many.
Because I'm going to just pause it quickly there.
Yeah.
How does the list view presumably wins that battle? It just sits over the top. but it feels almost like I've got the list view open.
I
If
feel
you
like
know what I
it's
mean. I mean, I know
pretty
it's a different
similar.
color, but it
Mhm.
looks, it's the same spot. It's the same
Yeah.
kind of feel to it. Yeah,
Mhm.
interesting. Okay, let's carry on.
It just seems pretty big. Like, I'm like, I don't know. That feels like a pretty. And then there's like the templates. You're in the templates. Then
Yeah,
in the back in navigation. It's. I don't know. It's a lot. It's a
yeah.
lot.
It is. It is a lot. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I am perpetually confused by how much needs to be in these sidebars, and
Yeah.
we're so used to having where you just navigate away, and then you've got this full UI to do everything, and we're moving to a scenario where everything's going to be done in these little miniature sidebars, and it's hard. It's hard to imagine how that would look and get it right.
Hmm.
And have
And
them,
having that
sidebars which overlap sidebars and ones which
exactly. Yeah.
go instead of other ones, and iconography that you can rely on. Oh no, that's the list view. Okay, that's the navigation. Right.
And then there's another issue I sent you also might cause another site. It's like there's just a lot of experiences that they're
Is
trying
this the
to.
global styles one?
There's a different one. Let me
Block pattern.
see.
No, that was the block patterns directory. What am I
Look at the
missing?
sections. Hold on, I'll resend it to you.
Okay.
It's patterns as sections, I think is the name. You would not believe how. Let's try this.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let me just grab that link. Thank you.
That's kind of an interesting one coming up. I think they will refine it because we do need to start uniting things. So like that is also a big piece of feedback is people being like, what? How does this? Why can't I edit my post while I'm messing with the template? This is annoying.
Even
I
the
think
title of that is hard to pass, isn't it? Patterns as sectioning elements. It's like, hang on, wait, give me 30 seconds to figure out what that even means. Okay, tell us what the gist of this is. Again, it's Matthias.
yes. So this is another interesting issue that I think could unlock some cool stuff, especially with uh, the experience of switching between patterns quickly. So having an intuitive way to just like slide through different patterns. But essentially, I'm like trying to avoid getting into hyper technical. I was reading the technical implementation of
It's okay.
possible
You can go
fixes.
technical if you like. I may be left behind, but
It
that's
just might be
fine.
boring because they haven't figured it out how they want to implement it. But it's like, could you make blocks have a support for patterns, for example? So is it a block support thing in the same way like gap support is? Like how would you actually implement sections? But what's kind of cool is like the cycling through patterns, and this also has some visuals down below. But essentially, what it's saying is like, how can we designate something as these are sections of your site? So before playing the video, it's like, oh, here, yeah, perfect. See how it bounces out? So imagine each of these, the header, the middle content, are all defined as sections. So you say like, this is a
Yeah,
header section.
that
This
was
is your.
pretty neat. I like that. I like that. That
Mhm.
was a pretty clear indication to me that this is different. That bit's different to that bit. There's this great big black space. I
Exactly. It's like,
quite
this
like
is
that.
global. This is like you're separating everything out. And then once it's separated, how can we take advantage of the increase in patterns that block themes are able to provide? Where you're like, hey, here are all your header patterns. So like, boom, you separate out, and then you can slide through and say like, oh, I want to switch up my header, and you can
Oh,
easily
okay.
see exactly where it
So
is.
all the headers in one place, and you just maybe you swipe left or up and down,
Mhm.
but you can see them all one after another and select. Nah, that is
And it
yeah,
explodes it. So you and like obviously there's huge problems with this too, but like the general concept is fascinating because it integrates the experience in a way that it's a mode you can move into. So it's an exploded mode where you can see all the sections of your site, and then from there more intuitively be like, okay, I want to switch this out, just this one part, rather than maybe adding a pattern, deleting something else. Like it kind of contains it. And also when you're switching between this experience, they're exploring what it might look like to actually lock it a little bit. So when you're in that zoomed out view, imagine you can swipe between things, but you can't, if you want to go back in and edit it, you have to go back into like the flushed view where it's all together.
yeah.
Um,
There's so much going on, isn't there? But I mean,
mhm.
I really liked that. I like the way that looks, and I've got to say, I'm a sucker for this layout. I
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. The modal with just here's the faceted filtering on the left. Here's
Hmm.
the visual representation of it on the right. Drop it in, and then immediately decide, yeah, like, don't like, delete, move on, try again, rinse and repeat. I like that. Can we see what else he's got? Is this
Yeah,
another
I think
version, the
this is a
Exploded 2? Can we
similar.
try that one?
Yeah, let's do it. All of these
Okay.
explorations are fascinating. So you can see It's again off to the side. It's another tool. It's another thing in the sidebar. You can move them around. I think this is the one that he shows. Yep.
Though,
So
okay, I like that as well.
right?
Huh. I like that more, I think. Although I wasn't aware. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. Yep.
Isn't that wild?
It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And of course, this is a contained prototype, but it is pretty cool. Like you can see the possible impact, and it adds like a level of guardrails where someone, rather than maybe tinkering as much, they might just go into this experience and like swipe through. And like if you're an agency and you have a client and they're requiring certain brands, like imagine you just hook up all these patterns where
Yeah.
someone's able to just be like, cool, I like this one. Moving on, like having it be a bit more
You know what,
contained
as
and
well, is
curated.
that whole swipe thing is the modern thing, isn't it? Like I'm so used to mousing up and down and using the scroll wheel, but you're just used to doing that, aren't you?
Mhm.
Left, right, left, right, left, right, and it kind of works. But whether or not that transfers to the mouse, where you've got to find the button which allows you to do it,
Or
I've
maybe
seen
board controls or
yeah,
something.
I've seen implementations where, let's say, for example, on a modal pop-up with images, half of the image, if you click that half of the image, you get to the next one, and if you click that half of the image, you go back to
Yeah.
the previous one. So a big portion of the screen
Mhm.
is the button. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, where it's a clickable area.
Yeah, like a clickable, but you
Mhm.
don't really know it's a clickable area. You just sort of intuit it and figure out, oh, okay, that made it move, so it
That could be
must.
kind of cool, like lower the opacity or something. That would.
Yeah, or there's some
Mhm.
sort of gradient or something to indicate that
Mhm.
there's I don't know, an arrow or something like that. But that looked fat. I'm digging this. Has
Yeah,
he got? He's
Jay
got
is
more, has he?
very.
Okay, let's.
There's more. I can't
This is
remember.
edit. So this is edit. He's trying now to edit things. In the video above, you'll see how the toolbar absorption and the block locking can be dramatically simplifying how
Mhm.
complex groups of blocks are edited. Okay, let's give that a go. All
Oh
right.
yeah, they're flattened, meaning it's very contained. Like you can't actually edit things. This is what I was describing. It's like, so if you do want to edit, you have to go back into the flatten mode.
Okay. So the exploded mode is just to pick. It's
It's
like a
just
picker.
purely
Right.
like pick 'em, move it around maybe, but
Yep.
like you can't to edit, you have to go back into. And yeah, Max just said the animation's really nice and it is using animation to convey function. I totally agree. Like the animation part of this, I think is really something I'd love to see more like subtle animation throughout
Yeah, I
this
think I
room.
think the black. I'm going to say borders for want of a better word. It's not really, is it? But the blackness, it
Mhm.
totally it gave me that feeling immediately. Okay, this is all we've done now is just shrink what we had, and now we've got options to do things with them. Okay, I like it. Yeah, that's
And I mean,
cool.
that was honestly like the template editor that you can find through the post editor where it has that like gray background with
Yep.
like go back, or even like the template part focus mode. Like both of those don't really have animations. So you're just like there, and it's not
Yeah.
as this is feels more like, okay, I'm doing something and this is a different experience. You've just brought me into something different. And I think we can
Yeah.
learn a lot from these
I remember
explorations.
just but a basic thing with blocks when the ability when you moved a block up and down where it glided instead of just suddenly moved and you couldn't really keep a track of what you'd done. That was a real and it was just a subtle animation and that was the same feeling there. It was just something very
Mhm.
subtle. It shrunk and it did the job.
I feel like it's
Anymore.
all Jay this.
More
He's
there
been
is
working on this.
focus. Okay, let's just see what this one. Hopefully it goes without saying that the prototypes in these videos. Oh, okay, no, he's not
Yeah.
describing it.
And this
Let's just
work
watch
has
it.
not really been deeply explored, but I think some folks are starting to been seeing some PRs about what they might look like.
Okay.
So this would be focus mode, I think, is what. Yeah,
So I got to watch that again because I'm trying to
do it.
figure out what the grey bits at the top and the bottom were. Edit. Okay, so is that?
So you know how there's template part focus mode? It's
Yep,
basically applying that concept
yep,
um, to like these sections. So in the same way you can edit, you can only do focus mode with like a template part, like a header or footer. Or, you can't do like sidebars, all that sort of stuff. This would be bringing that same experience to sections. And this is just a new look and feel. And again, like Jay says, very high level. Like this is all this stuff that we're talking about right now is very like in the future. But it's neat to look at currently because ideally, once these explorations can start getting into GitHub and into Gutenberg, we can actually test them and go through them and be like, this is really good. This is really confusing. I need 2 more steps in between here. Use this animation more or less,
Yeah.
kind of
I got
getting
to
that
say,
feedback.
none of that was confusing, but but it was, some of it was beautiful. I really like it. So this is WordPress GitHub.
Mhm.
It's called Patterns as Sectioning Elements. It's number 39281. If you're interested, 8th of March, and presumably Matthias wants a bunch more commentary at the bottom. There's quite a lot. There's you again.
I'm like, yeah, what did I say? Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
no. Because one of the things that came up was like, okay, wait, someone was like, how is a pattern as a section? How is that different than a template part or usable block, a pattern? Like we already have all these terms. And so there's like an interesting back and forth. I think it's on this issue.
There's a
Uh,
really good learn video.
that's the article I wrote. That's actually, I also wrote that support article.
Are you linking to that?
Yes. Well,
The
then
video
the
of
video is
what's the
also,
difference between a template, a part, and a block, and a pattern, and all of that. And it's about 6 minutes long, but it just nails it.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that was brilliant. I'm so glad you put that in front of us.
Yeah.
Should we go on to
Yeah.
our next one, the global styles one? Yeah.
So this, yeah.
So this is Critter verse.
Channing.
I
Channing
can't
is the
transpose that to a
design
real
lead
name. I'm
for
sorry.
6.0. She's fantastic. She's just, yeah, wonderful. And this came up in the product walkthrough. So there was a walkthrough that was a new thing that was done ahead of 6.0 instead of the go, no go. And it's basically a moment where folks on the release team and contributors kind of pause and take stock of everything that might be coming. And so one of the things that came up was just wanting to improve actually being able to save different style variations. So in the same way
Right.
you can now have style variations in your theme, it's like, what does it look like if I were to want to save my own? And so it's kind of, this is again design prototype. This is again next level. 6.0 will not have this, but I think it's a really neat idea. So imagine I go into the site editor, I have a style variation that I come up with and customize and tweak to my liking. And I'm like, let me save this. I'm going to save this on my end, have it be like a custom palette color. It's like I can have my own style variation. And then let's say I want to explore 2022 to see if it's better than mine. I can switch between that and then also still have my own, which I think is really an important thing. Like right now I'm using 2022 on my personal site, but I can't wait for the variations. There's 3 style variations that are going to come out with 6.0, but I'd love to be able to revert back to what I had without having to just do a bunch.
Yeah. Well, there's a reset to default button, but obviously you can save it. And just keep saving it, make a tweak, keep it version 1, version 2, 398 later. I preferred 6 or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know what to add to that really, but that's just more.
Have you played with the style variations at all?
Not at all. So I'm not even really cognizant of where I would be going with this. But
so like if you look at do you see underneath all this there's like that style variations button to the right
here?
Yeah. So if you clicked in on that, basically it would allow you, it would open up kind of similar to that video we watched 2022. It would have like different little sections that you could click from. And it's just a really neat, and at a glance, it'll change everything. Another pain point in the experience, I'm all about pain points. Everyone's like, you're so into full setting. It's not useful. I'm like, I can tell you all the pain points. Like I sit in it every single day.
Everything that's wrong.
Yeah. It's very powerful, but I also I love to be transparent about yep, we've seen this. Yep. If you run into this, you're not losing your mind. Right now, if you let's say you change the style variation for your site and completely switch your fonts, your colors, your layout, all that sort of stuff, and then went to hit save, the multi-save flow would just say you changed global styles. It doesn't give you a granular look at what changed.
Right.
So the saving experience is very blunt and it needs to be more nuanced and granular. And that's also in progress. So I've had some folks be like, I didn't realize it was going to change. It changed literally everything. So that's another part of this, that when we think about how the different releases are adding up to each other. So 5.8 introduced theme JSON, 5.9 has this styles interface. 6.0 is going to have these style variations. It's 6.1, we need to be able to save our own. We need to have more granular save options so we know what's changing. We need to be able to, I don't know, export these things more readily, which I think is also available in 6.0. But there's a lot of playing around with like additional functionality that I think will be really cool in the future.
I love all this behind the curtain stuff, and the well, it's not behind the curtain. There's no curtain. There's only the sort of
Too much
not
information in my
bothering
head.
to go and look in my case, But it's just fascinating, isn't it? You get a window into what might be and what might not be. So this is Critterverse. Who did you say that was? I'm sorry, I was over talking you.
Channing Ritter.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's number 38333 on Gutenberg WordPress on GitHub. And she says some of the possibilities they're under discussion are automatically saving and copying when customizations are made to a theme provided variation, and providing two options under the user when the user applies a style variation, merge with current user plus apply or just apply. Oh, okay. Well, there's a lot in there as well.
Oh man,
That's 4 out of 5. Have you got anything else to add to that one?
No, not to this.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Should we just talk about the pattern directory quickly, which is super cool? What's not to love here? Like, it's like cut down the time of building a website dramatically by leveraging the work of millions of other people, hopefully. This is really exciting. I mean, it's not new news, but there is a new component, I guess, which is this little bit here, the ability to create a new pattern. If you've not been to the pattern directory, it's where you'd expect it to be. It's WordPress.org, and it's like the third menu item. That gives you some indication of how important it's going to be. And you can filter by, you want to look at buttons. There's no buttons. You want to look at columns. There's no columns. You want to look at featured. There's no featured.
Wow, this is fun.
I don't know what it'll be. My Brave browser. Let me switch off the.
I'm gonna go.
It'll be because I've got Brave, and they've got this little crazy feature in Brave where they block all sorts of things. So let's try that again. There we go. So buttons, columns, featured, gallery.
I got a little nervous for a second, Ethan.
Yeah, that's right. There is not. It's called the pattern directory, but there's nothing. There's no content at all. But it's a nice UI. So you can browse all these different bits and pieces, which is fabulous. And the idea would be that you go somewhere and you like one, you just have a quick look. This is kind of neat. I don't know if you're watching this and you haven't. You just get, this is cool. I just love this functionality. You just give it whatever size you like, and it updates at the top, tells you exactly where you are. So you're going to know what your website's breakpoints are going to be, and you can have a good old look at it. And then if you like it, if you're logged in, you can add it to your set of favorites, or you just copy it and you're done. You just go to your website and Command V, and boom, there it is. Free, gratis layouts. How cool is that?
In 6.02, I'll have to mention that you can actually set different patterns to be featured in the inserter using theme.json from the pattern directory. So let's say there's like three or four different patterns that your client really likes. You can put them in theme.json and have it automatically be in the inserter and prioritized, which is really, I'm super excited about that.
So you as an agency owner, you go through, like, presumably the flow is you go through with your clients, which of these do you like, or I'll decide what's going to fit the brand of what have you. And then you just pick them, put them in the theme.json file, and then they are automatically available. That's nifty.
Yeah, it's one of those things that people, I actually just did a YouTube video on 6.0 yesterday. And almost I was like choosing between a couple different functionalities to show with the block theme workflow improvements, but there's a lot of stuff coming with 6.0 that I think block themers and folks with like in a client situation will really like, to offer some curation where it's like, okay, you keep using these same patterns in the WordPress or pattern directory, or these are really good. Let's just have those featured using theme.json. It's very simple. You don't even have to copy and paste them. All you need is that slug, and basically like theme.json will pick up on it and pull it from the pattern directory.
So you literally copy and paste the slug, shove it in the theme.json file, and that's it. You're done.
Let me see if I can pull up. I'm going to pull up an example.
Okay.
Actually,
do you need to share your screen? You can do if you like.
Can I? Okay, hold on. Maybe
it's the little button at the bottom. It looks like
a behind the scenes of.
If you don't want to, that's fine.
Oh no,
just because I know you've got like 1,000 things going on
I just
probably.
opened up, and whenever you're like, open up a new tab, I was like, that's a good idea.
Yeah, do that.
Let me find here.
Thank you, by the way, Max. You're putting a lot of effort into this, and we haven't really been raising your comments. So whilst you do that, I'll just talk about Max's comments, which is really nice. He said there's so much movement and things shifting around. So we're back to the piece that we had earlier with the surface navigation structure. Hope things settle down and we can learn WP again. Yeah, I guess at some point the playground has to stop and we have to actually settle on something and just all of us learn that. The animation's really nice. I would agree. That was the bit that stood out for me. It has a bird's eye feel to it. Yep. I am on a higher management. Yeah, and you get the feeling that you're on a higher. Yeah, that's right. So you sort of pull it. It's shrinking away, and you're rising up. Right, I'm with you. And then he says the animations have to be something that we can rely on and learn subconsciously. Yeah, okay. Do you want me to put that one on my screen instead?
It needs my permission. It would make me like close out of Chrome. And I was like, okay, well, that's a non-starter. Okay. So these are actually my slides for a YouTube video I did. So I don't care. I have zero problem sharing. I probably will share this on a blog post eventually. If you go down to slide 40.
Boy.
Okay. I know. This was a 22-minute long video. This is what it looks like. So it's just these short.
Oh man, that's piece of cake.
Simple, clean? Yeah, that's why I was like, I really want to show this visual because it's very, very streamlined.
So it's 2 lines. Mm-hmm. 2 lines. Yeah.
And both of those short text and partner logos are in the pattern directory, and you just add them into theme.json. Theme.json is wildly powerful for curating the experience.
Yeah.
Like, you can turn a bunch of stuff off. You can provide custom duotone filters. You can provide a custom color palette. Like, you can do a lot of really cool stuff if you mess with theme.json. Right now, most block themes are very open-ended intentionally. But I know going forward, I think it's going to be really cool to see how people actually make it their own.
Yeah, it kind of feels to me like theme.json is going to be the new cool thing. Everybody's going to be making tutorials on it and how to tweak it. And
I hope so.
yeah. But it's inevitable, right? It's totally inevitable, but it's just not at the point of common usage. So I think a lot of the YouTubers maybe don't go into that because it's, it's bleeding edge and wait for things to settle down. Yeah, that's really straightforward. Let's just go back to this one, though. So we mentioned that we have the option to create a new pattern. That leads you to here if you're logged in, and I've somehow managed to dismiss the modal let me just click on that. Is it gonna will it run it a second? No, of course it won't run it a second time. And this is the ability now to, you can basically, I'm not going to waste your time putting a load of groups and blocks and cover blocks and all of that on the screen, but I've made a really monstrously ugly one earlier. It was so bad. It had cat pictures in it. That's how bad it was. And within a couple of minutes, you can have your own pattern figured out. And then here's the secret sauce. You can then, once you've got something, you can submit it with this little button to the pattern directory. And now my understanding, and I'm going to be talking to Anna and Kelly, who are working on the pattern directory project next week. I believe it's Tuesday. I'm chatting to them, so I'll get the lowdown on what the rules are, because obviously there's caveats. The cats are fine, but there might be other things which nobody wants to see, and there's probably some sort of guidelines about the way that things are laid out. And I'm imagining, I don't know, accessibility in terms of color contrast and things like that. I don't know. But you'll be able to submit it and save it as well, so that you can come back to it later. You can save it as a draft and it appears in your WordPress.org account, and you can come back to it later and tweak it and fiddle with it. And this is just great. Hopefully, you can totally imagine a scenario a year from now, and let's fingers crossed that it will be, where there are literally hundreds of thousands of these patterns for absolutely everything. I mean, don't look at any of mine because they'll all have cat pictures and rounded corners with dotted borders. That's what it was like. But people who are expert at this and really have design chops will be able to go in here and make things freely available for the community. Then they'll come in here, and then I guess at some point we're going to be suffering the deluge of like plugin, the plugin directory. How do we surface the good stuff? And from what you're saying, you'll be able to surface the good stuff from your for your clients, at least anyway, with the theme JSON file, and you could do that for yourself. So this is all very exciting. I'm guessing that you're excited about this.
Oh, I love this stuff. And I'm like, one of the things you're saying is like, how do you surface the good stuff? I'm wondering if there's a way to pull in your favorites, maybe like if you authenticate between like the directory and your account. Like, I don't know if there's some intelligence that we can do there, but I'm super excited.
I would. I was thinking exactly that, and what I was thinking was I would like a favorites container,
yes,
which then I can put other containers into. So it might be, and not your containers, not buttons, columns, featured. I want to call things, cats or like, or I don't know, buttons or whatever. My own categorization, or even just by project or website name or whatever it might be.
Cool.
And then to be able to just pull those in on the other end would be absolutely magnificent. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah.
I'm with you. +1.
Okay.
Tell Kelly and Anna.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. We'll see how far that suggestion goes. That podcast episode, I think, is going to be more where we're at, not Nathan tells the people what they should do.
Scroll.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We've gone through the lot. I found that really cool.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Thank you, Max, in particular, for giving us so much commentary. Did you like the format, Max? Maybe you've gone. If you have, that's fine. But Anne, one of the purposes of this episode was to figure out whether or not there was any legs to this, and whether or not we had the pattern right. I kind of liked what we did there. I kind of liked that we had a bunch of stuff on the screen and we just talked through it and go through the issues and so on. How did you feel?
Yeah, this was great for me. And there's a lot of stuff that's in my head. Is in my mind, it's not common knowledge, but it's just rumbling in my head. So if there are things that people want to have us talk about in the future, I'm always game to either read up or share what I know and connect some dots. So this is great for me because a lot of this stuff I think is coming up, and it helps, I think, prepare the community and gives an easier place for me to talk about these things rather than more words on a page,
Well, Max says he loved it. Thank you, Max. That's really good. We deliberately, or at least I should say I deliberately didn't really mention it until yesterday because I just wanted for Anne and I to go through the process without the thought of, is this going to be good enough or whatever. So maybe we'll make this, I don't know, I shouldn't say this. Maybe we'll make this a regular thing. That's obviously entirely up to Anne. But that would be nice.
I would love that. And I think along with the social learning spaces going through the calls for testing, I think that's kind of how I've been doing the hallway hangouts. And I think this is a much more, a better format. So very cool. Neil also said, and Max, I saw you said, are there pattern bundles yet? There are not. There are designs that fit together, quote unquote, meaning you have categorization, but you don't actually, you can't just bundle them as like all these designs go together. You can have block themes that have, so like 2022 has their own set of bundled patterns that go with the theme, but that's as close as you're going to get. Hopefully that helps answer the question.
Thank you, Max. And then it's not really a question, but Neil, I didn't know you were there, Neil, but thank you for joining us. Interesting insight. Would definitely watch more. Okay, well, there we go. That's Neil said so. So, Anne, you're coming back whether you like it or not. Thank you, Neil. I appreciate that. So we'll knock this one on the head, and we'll try to be a bit more forthright about, I don't know, marketing it, if for want of a better word, telling people that we're doing it next time, and hopefully there'll be more people in the comments and so on. But for now, Anne, that's been really interesting. It's a wrap. We'll see you next time we do the show that has no name yet, but we must give it a name at some point. All right. Cheers, Anne. Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.